Okay, let's jump right into this explainer and look at an incredibly unexpected piece of software that is seriously testing the limits of what local AI can do right there on your own machine. We're talking about totally taking AI out of the cloud, bypassing the big tech companies entirely, and bringing a really powerful suite of tools directly to your personal desktop.
But before we get into the nuts and bolts of the tech, I want you to think, who is the absolute last person you'd expect to build a massive open source AI project? Well, if you guessed the mega YouTube creator PewDiePie, you'd actually be right. He is the mastermind behind this highly anticipated project we're breaking down today, stepping way outside of his usual content to release a surprisingly complex developer tool.
So what exactly is Project Odysseus? Simply put, it's a self-hosted AI workspace running on your own machine, which gives you total control over your local models, tools, and most importantly, your data. Now, what's really interesting here is what this isn't. Odysseus isn't a brand new standalone language model. Instead, think of it as a unified interface. It's much like a traditional desktop app that pulls all your AI workflows, everything from chatting to calendar management, into one entirely private place.
And let me tell you, the hype for this concept is very, very real. 71,000. That is how many GitHub stars Odysseus racked up almost immediately after launching, right alongside over 9,200 forks, where developers are already actively branching off to build their own versions of it. It's super clear that people want the power of AI, but they don't want to send all their private data up to big cloud platforms.
So let's actually take a look inside the Odysseus workspace and see what it takes to set up this personal AI control room.
You can actually get this set up directly on an Apple Silicon Mac pretty easily using standard terminal commands. But you definitely need to keep your expectations in check right out of the gate. As the source notes, it's an open source experiment for people who want more control, more privacy, and a glimpse at what personal AI might actually become. Basically, this isn't some perfectly polished mainstream assistant from a giant tech lab like OpenAI or Google. It's an experimental, occasionally janky tool built for tinkerers who really want to get their hands dirty.
Once you're actually in, though, the sheer breadth of tools is stunning. We're talking chat and model selection, a brain for long-term memory, a deep research module, a really cool blind model compare tool, a cookbook to help install dependencies, and even a gallery and image editor. The ambition here is massive. It wants to be a potential total replacement for those giant cloud ecosystems. Just imagine replacing Google Docs, Google Calendar, and Google Photos entirely with tools running completely on your own hard drive.
All right, let's move on to the really fun part. Local models versus the cloud. It's the ultimate AI showdown.
So Odysseus has this fantastic compare feature built in for blind testing. You can literally pit local models running on your machine directly against massive cloud API models to see which one performs better. In one corner, we have the local Gemma 3, which is a 12 billion parameter model running purely on the local computer, and in the other corner, we've plugged in the cloud API for GPT 5.5. In this specific test, both models were asked a highly relevant question: is local AI actually useful for normal people yet, or is it mostly just for hobbyists? And honestly, both models provided excellent, detailed answers weighing the pros and cons. It was practically a tie in terms of basic logic and reasoning.
But here is where your jaw is going to drop. The real separator is the massive cost difference. For 1,000 responses in that exact same blind test, the local Gemma model costs just 9 cents for the electricity and processing power. 9 cents. The Cloud GPT 5.5 API, a whopping $11. When you're running AI on your own hardware, you are entirely bypassing those hefty, recurring API fees.
Now, to be completely fair, it's not all victories for local models. We have to talk about the SVG capability gap. When the same blind test was run, asking the two models to generate raw code for an SVG image, the cloud model completely blew the local model out of the water. The local generation was okay, but it highlighted a massive current quality gap when it comes to highly complex, specialized visual coding tasks.
So, if local models struggle with certain complex tasks, where does this setup actually shine? Let's talk about deep research and memory. It turns out that if you give these slightly weaker local models the right structure and plenty of time to perform complex tasks, the results are actually mind-blowing. Here is how the deep research workflow operates iteratively. First, you set your topic and the number of research rounds you want it to run. Next, the local AI, using a model like Gemma, independently goes out and searches the web using DuckDuckGo. Finally, it digests all that data and compiles a comprehensive visual report. In the sources test, this whole process took about 7 minutes of processing. And the best part? It never sent the core prompt or any personal data up to an AI cloud to achieve this. The reaction to this process was perfectly captured by the source, who fully admitted this is actually much better than I thought it was going to be. And they were right. The local setup generated a beautifully designed, formatted report, complete with a table of contents and perfectly structured headers. The application guided the local model to produce an incredible output that honestly rivals dedicated, expensive paid research tools. Another really massive advantage here is the brain feature. Odysseus automatically catalogs your user preferences and privacy needs right from your past chats. So, say you tell it you want to keep work files private, or you mention that you own a specific type of car. It actually stores that in its brain to continuously contextualize your future interactions. It's essentially this personalized, local, long-term memory that literally never leaves your device.
Okay, let's pivot for a second because we really need to talk about bugs and missing features and the sometimes harsh reality of open-source tinkering.
It is definitely time for a reality check. Because even with technical know-how, getting some of these advanced features to actually work is just a massive headache. The source shared a quote that I think brings some perfect levity to the struggle. They said, "I've been trying for probably the last 45 minutes to try to actually get the in-painting working, and it's just beyond me." They completely failed to get the gallery's AI image editing tools to function at all. Despite carefully installing the necessary code and all the background software packages to run these models, the system just repeatedly threw error codes.
That hair-pulling frustration really came down to a few major roadblocks. For one, the FluxCline 9 billion parameter model just failed to generate anything. The popular ideogram model, entirely unrecognized by the system. Both in-painting and out-painting commands inside the image editor were flat-out rejected. And even the advanced agent feature, which is designed to let AI control your computer tools, was just totally unclear on how to even set up. It's a pretty strong reminder that, for right now, complex image generation is still best left to dedicated, specialized platforms.
So, zooming out a bit, is local AI actually ready? Let's get to the final verdict.
Who is this entire open source ecosystem actually built for today? Because while the tech is incredibly promising, it is clearly not for everybody just yet. When you break it down, local AI is strictly for privacy advocates, offline workers, tech-savvy tinkerers, and people who are just desperate to escape endless monthly subscriptions. But on the other side of things, cloud AI remains the undisputed champion for average users wanting a polished experience, people who want to avoid technical configuration entirely, and anyone who just needs highly capable default assistance right out of the box. Odysseus shows us that local AI has absolutely crossed from a hobbyist toy into a practical leash tool. But yeah, it's not the mainstream default yet.
And one of the biggest reasons local AI isn't mainstream yet is the hardware bottleneck. To run a truly powerful local model, like the QN 3.5 122 billion parameter model, you need a massive 77 gigabytes of VRAM. That's the specialized memory your graphics card uses to process AI. The vast majority of home computers do not have anywhere near that capability. However, the source predicts that with companies like Microsoft and NVIDIA announcing local DGX computers, future hardware is poised to bridge this gap very soon.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating dilemma as we wrap up this explainer. As computers get stronger, will your AI live in the cloud, or will it live right there on your desk? Project Odysseus proves that an entirely private, locally run AI ecosystem is totally possible right now, even if it has some rough edges. It really leaves you pondering the future of our personal data, and exactly when we might all make the switch to a completely local AI control room. Thanks for learning with us, and keep questioning the tech you use every day.